அஸ்ஸலாமு அலைக்கும். நாம் இன்று ஜும்மா தொழுவதற்காக மஸ்ஜித் ஃபுர்கான் போயிருந்தோம். அங்கு பலர் கூடியிருந்தார்கள். ஜனங்கள் அதிகமாக இருந்தார்கள். வெள்ளிக்கிழமை ஜனங்கள் அதிகமாக இருப்பதால் 2 ஜமாத் ஆகிறது. நாம் முதல் ஜமாத்தில் தொழுது வந்தோம். அங்கு நபீல் அலாவுத்தீன் மௌலானா அவர்களுடைய குத்பா மிக சிறப்பாக இருந்தது. அந்த குத்பாவை இதோடு இணைத்து அனுப்புகிறேன், கேளுங்கள். பலஸ்தீனத்தை பற்றி அவர் பேசினார். பலஸ்தீன மக்கள் எவ்வொரு துன்பத்துக்கு ஆளாகி கொண்டிருக்கிறார்கள். ஏறக்குறைய 15,000 பேர்கள் காலமாகியிருக்கிறார்கள், குழந்தைகள் அதிகம் என்றெல்லாம்
كما نشكره على النعم ونصلي على سيدنا الأكرم ذي الشرف الأشم والنور الأتم وكتاب المحكم وكمال النبيين والخاتم سيد ولد آدم الذي بشر به عيسى ابن مريم ودعا لبعثته إبراهيم عليه السلام حين كان يرفع قواعد بيت الله المحرم، فصلى الله عليه وعلى أتباعه خير الأمم الذين بارك الله بهم كافة الناس العرب منهم والعجم. يقول الله تعالى في كتابه الكريم بعد أن نقول أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم: يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا. أما بعد فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وإن شر الأمور محدثاتها وأن كل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. نسأل الله أن أجرنا من النار. آمين. My brothers and sisters, please make your way forward. Please congest in as people are off school, people are off work today. So please come as far forward as you can, fill in the gaps, as we're expecting many more people to come, both on the brothers and the sisters side. First, I want to say Jazakumullah khairan for your patience. I know I'm very late, and I appreciate you waiting. Inshallah, I won't make this too long, because I know some folks do have to get back to work. Some folks are off school and they have things that they want to do. I have a couple of questions that I just want to reflect as a group together, inshallah. The first question that I have for all of us is that when the adhan was being called and we heard Hayya ala al-falah, Hayya ala al-falah, come to success, rush to success. Who are these people that are successful? Because something that is on our minds and we cannot turn away from for the last 48 days and many days before is what our brothers and sisters are going through in Palestine. And I repeatedly talk about Palestine, and you repeatedly have likely heard about Palestine, not because our brothers and sisters' blood is more valuable in Palestine than in the Congo, not because it's more valuable than the blood of our brothers and sisters in Afghanistan, in the Uyghur community, or anywhere else in the world. Rather, it is because, like in the time of the Sahaba, a surah came down that became known as Surah Al-Fadiha, the surah that exposed, the great exposer. You and I know that surah today as Surah At-Tawbah, because in that surah, Allah put the hypocrites on blast. Allah showed the world that He knew all along what was in the hearts of the hypocrites. And today, you and I are witnessing another Fadiha. You and I are witnessing that people are progressive except for Palestine. You and I are witnessing that human rights matter except when they're Palestinian. You and I recognize that women's rights matter until it's the women who need neonatal care in Gaza. Children's rights matter until it's the children of Gaza and of Palestine as a whole. And that is why we focus so much of our conversation on Palestine, because it exposes and it is a test for the believers to see what is our conviction made of. Malcolm X rahimahullah said that if you stand for nothing, you will fall for anything. And so this is an exposure for us as Muslims. Will we continue to live our life distractedly, disarmedly, unconcerned with the affairs of the larger ummah? And I say this even for folks who are quote-unquote religious, that by and large we lived a life of normalcy, and we lived a life where we didn't have this deep ummatic consciousness, that it really should bother me that I am disinterested in what's happening in the Congo. It tells me there's an ounce of jahiliyyah that I need to kill, that I'm not concerned about my brothers and sisters and intimately aware of what's happening in Sudan. I say this because it is impossible for us to know everything about everyone. But Sami Hamdi, he's someone that I recommend that if you take nothing else from this khutbah except to remember to fear Allah, that you remember, you go home and you Google the name Sami Hamdi, because he will give you much more content than I can give you in 10 minutes. But he made this point that in Ibn Khaldun's Muqaddimah, that Ibn Khaldun was as aware and intimately aware of the details from everywhere from Algeria to Sudan. He knew everything that was going on. He knew how the plight of the Muslims was. So my brothers and sisters, Palestine is first a test for the believers about, are we actually feeling like we're part of something bigger? Like we're here for someone more than ourselves, but for Allah and His Rasul and for the people that follow them. That's the first test. Because it's very easy. We sit here and we condemn oppressive nations. We sit here and we condemn Genocide Joe. We condemn the world leaders that just facilitate and profit and instigate this genocide. But it's much harder to interrogate ourselves and ask ourselves, are we being hypocrites? Am I really doing everything that I can to affect the situation? Because we've heard the hadith many times, I'm sure, in the last couple of weeks, that there are 3 levels of faith, that when we see evil, we try to change it first with our hands, and if not, then with our tongues, and if not, then at the very least we hate it in our heart, and that is the lowest form of iman. But too often, I'm not going to project on you, I will reflect and say, too often, I relegate myself to the lowest level of faith. I say there's nothing I can do, so I'm just going to hate it in my heart. But my brothers and sisters, today we sit on a day where there are 50% off deals on the TVs and the laptops and the phones and all the things that we've wanted all year. Key emphasis on the word want, not need. We've wanted these. We needed that fridge. We wanted that fridge. We wanted that washer dryer. And I'm here today to remind myself and all of us that you and I have much more power than we afford ourselves. Because, and I'm going to use very careful language because I don't want the masjid to get in trouble, but boycotting, hypothetically, is the most effective means of protesting and of organizing outside of a large confederacy of some force of good of the Muslims. There's no righteously established khilafah today that is protecting the people hurt by injustice, Muslim and non-Muslim. There's no power like that. So in the absence of that, economic power is our greatest power. And I remind myself and yourself that it is better to withhold from the 40% discount. It is better to abstain from the $2 of cola. It is better to abstain from the $8 coffee drink so that on the day of judgment, or in Jannah, when we go and we meet our brothers and sisters from Palestine who literally were waiting for someone in the world to help them. They waited for the Arab world to help them as they were bombed, even during the humanitarian pause, which suggests if you have to have a pause for humanity, it suggests everything you did before was inhumane. When our brothers and sisters meet us in Jannah, I want them to say, dear brother or sister, I'm so happy to meet you. When no one stood for me, you were there for me. You were there for me. Which brings me back to the question, what is falah? What is success? Because our brothers and sisters who have passed, فَرِحِينَ بِمَا آتَاهُمْ رَبُّهُمْ, they are ecstatic. They are so pleased with what Allah has given them. And they are yurzaqun. Every single thing they could want is taken care of by the greatest caretaker. But for those of us that remain, we're starting to get tired. It's been 48 days. How many days can I go hypothetically of canceling my kids' favorite streaming service? How many days can I really post? How many days can I really be ostracized at work for the conversations that I am not afraid to have? How many days can I go? And I remind us that we're very familiar with the ayah in the Quran where Allah says, وَلَا تَخَافُوا وَلَا تَحْزَنُوا, and don't be afraid and don't be sad. That's what the angels say to the people who have passed away immediately. When our brothers and sisters, when the children, when the over 5,000 children pass away, they're met with angels that say, you have nothing to be afraid of, you have nothing to be sad over. But for those of us that remain, we feel overwhelmed. We feel like we can't keep this up. We feel like we're starting to get fatigued. We're not even the ones going through the struggle itself. We just watch like videos of the struggle and we feel ourselves getting fatigued. To us, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَا تَهِنُوا وَلَا تَحْزَنُوا, and don't get numb, and don't burn out, and don't give up hope, and don't be sad. Don't be sad because we know the people who have passed are in a much better place. And don't give up hope, don't burn out, because we recognize Allah changes things not on our timeline. Allah changes them on His timeline. Allah is the Latif. He's the subtle. He's the Khabir. He's the all-knowing. He's the one that when Yunus alayhi salam was ennobled, was given prophethood, was given the message, and he delivered to his people. When Nuh alayhi salam was given the message to his people, and he called, and he called, and he called for 900 years. فَلَمْ يَزِدْهُمْ دُعَاءً وَلَمْ يُزِدْهُمْ دُعَاءً إِلَّا فِرَارًا. That Nuh alayhi salam's calls to them did nothing but increase them in their ignorance and their disobedience. When Yunus alayhi salam was freed from the whale and returned to his people, he was amazed to find the entire people had become Muslim. Not because of Yunus alayhi salam, but in his absence, even though Yunus alayhi salam was given the mission of delivering the message. So my brothers and sisters, you and I can sleep with certainty knowing that justice is coming. Allah's outcome is coming. Truth is coming. Allah does not honor, we do not honor Allah's causes by advocating for truth. We honor ourselves by being associated with Allah's justice, by being associated with advocating for Allah's path. So as we pause in this break in the khutbah, we reflect on what it means to be successful. How are we pursuing success? And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for His forgiveness. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. حبيبنا ونبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. My dear respected brothers and sisters, there's a lot more that I wanted to say, but I'll leave you with this thought. Fundamentally, there's some of us that feel like we are being burnt out, and that we are not seeing change at the pace that we want to, and at the same time we feel powerless. We feel I'm a regular person. I have no army. I have no great buying power. There's not much I can do. My dear respected brothers and sisters, one, you do have power. You and I have power. How do I know this? Because Meta, because Twitter, because all these organizations would not work so hard to censor you and I if we had no power. 28 states would not pass anti-BDS legislation if you and I had no power. Allah wants us to be His Khalifas on this earth, to be His representatives, His emissaries, His caretakers. There's no one, people who don't believe in an afterlife have no reason to put their neck on the line. Some of them do, and we praise them for it. But you and I are the only ones who can be there to stand up for our brothers and sisters. And I want to tell you, it's a trap, a trick of the shaitan when you feel you have no power. It is the collective posting of regular people like you and I that delayed the ground invasion for so long of Gaza. Why did it take like a month? Why did it take so long for the oppressors to decide whether they wanted to do a ground invasion? It's because they knew they did not have the public opinion behind them to do it. And they kept waiting and kept testing and they kept testing. This humanitarian pause, how did it come about? Why did they feel the need to stop? It was because they wanted Americans to shop on Black Friday without being gathered at the Thanksgiving table, being overrun with the images of what they see. They know they're losing the PR war. They know it. The narratives are changing. You all have seen that, I forget the exact number, but I Stand With Palestine or Free Palestine had 1.4 billion views on TikTok, as opposed to 1.2 million of I Stand With the Oppressor. That's the difference you and I are making. And I know there are some younger folks who are with us today who are going to school. To you, my younger brothers and sisters, I want to encourage you to be brave, be bold, because you are being bullied at a rate of 1,600% higher since before October 7th. And I want to tell you that we as adults, we have your back. We're proud of what you're doing on platforms like TikTok, on conversations that you're having at the schoolyard. When your teacher makes a snide comment, don't let it pass. Come tell us. We'll fight with you. We'll make sure that your dignity is intact. So keep fighting the good fight, my brothers and sisters, because I know all of us are feeling the struggle in our hearts, but know that the physical struggle is only part of it. All the changes that you've seen have all come from the economic and the political and public opinion that we've exerted. So continue to like, to share, to retweet, whatever your platform is. With that, some practical tips that we can take away. 1, dua, silahul mu'min. We have to be making the sincerest dua of our lives in these moments. As my teacher said, if you're not willing to wake up in tahajjud and make dua for it, you don't really want it. So whatever we feel, it's not true unless we make tahajjud and we wake up 30 minutes before Fajr and we make sincere dua for it. The third thing is to cut out sin. Because all of this, if we find ourselves distancing ourselves from sin, then we should know that Palestine is not being freed by us, but we are being freed by Palestine. And we should awaken ourselves to the reality of this world, that people will never love us, will never accept us the way that we want them to, and that's okay. We don't need their love, we don't need their acceptance, we need respect. And we will demand it by the principles we stand for and the type of people we are. And finally, protest and boycott. I know people say, I don't see the instant effect of this. I feel like it's not doing anything. But historically, if we look at South Africa, if we look at other examples of apartheid, sustained protests and boycotts hypothetically work. They work. So don't give up, don't falter. With that, we conclude the khutbah and we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to count us amongst the sincere. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive us and forgive us of all our sins. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He free the oppressed all over the world and that He not make us amongst the oppressors. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He take the oppressors to account and that He holds them and that He firmly and swiftly establishes His justice. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He use us as vehicles of His good in this world and that He does not punish us for being distracted or delinquent in our responsibilities. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that for all those who have passed away, He accepts them as martyrs. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we be united with them and our loved ones under His shade on the day in which there is no shade. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He gather us in Firdaus as believers and people who love one another truly for the sake of Allah without any ounce of animosity towards one another. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He accept from us, that He count us amongst the righteous, that He take us amongst the righteous, and He raise us amongst them as well. We ask all the best of this life, the best of the next, and protection from the fire of hell. And we ask that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala use us as a vehicle to help the oppressed, whether they be Muslim or non-Muslim, all throughout the world. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على حبيبنا ونبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين وأقم الصلاة.
الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمد رسول الله. حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح. قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله.
Remember to pray as if it's your last prayer. And typically if you line up your heels on the back of the line, then your shoulders will also align too. Allahu Akbar. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والضحى والليل إذا سجى ما ودعك ربك وما قلى وللآخرة خير لك من الأولى ولسوف يعطيك ربك فترضى ألم يجدك يتيما فآوى ووجدك ضالا فهدى ووجدك عائلا فأغنى فأما اليتيم فلا تقهر وأما السائل فلا تنهر وأما بنعمة ربك فحدث. الله الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. الله
after Jumu'ah for Palestine, raising funds for Palestine. And alhamdulillah, we've raised around 2,800. And this week as well, Brother Asif is selling some food in the pavilion area. So please head over there if you would like some, and please support. All the funds will go to Palestine, inshallah. Okay, secondly, there is a blood drive from today, 1 p.m., so it's already started, 1 p.m. to 7 p.m., inshallah. Lifestyle is doing a blood drive here. You might have seen the truck on your way in. They're all the way over there on the other side in the driveway for the other building. And thirdly, Brother Nasser Wani, you might know Muhammad Nasser. His father is still recovering, so please keep him in your du'as, and all those that are sick, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
How does that work? Let me see.